Hey guys, it's me again, Joey, Bisaya reader, and welcome to another video. And for today, I'm going to show you the books I recently read. The first book I have read right after The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan is going to be another adult book, and this is going to be under literary fiction genre, and this is Carter Sickles' The Prettiest Star. Purchased this from Amazon US, and probably one of the most expensive book I purchased in 2021, but I did not regret doing it because this is going to be my new all-time favorite, not just for this year but for the rest of my life. This is a book that really made me cry. It was really an emotional read. We're going to follow our main character. He is a single gay guy who just lost his boyfriend from AIDS, and then he just discovered that he has AIDS, and still there's no cure that time because the story happened early 1990s or late 1980s, and the doctor recommended him to just go home and spend the rest of his life or the rest of his time to his family. Now, since he's dying, he was forced to go home to that hometown, which is really religious and really discriminating against LGBTQ members, and they are not that well informed of what the AIDS disease are, especially when these people in this town where he grew up thinks that AIDS can be passed through saliva, can be passed when you swim in the pool with a person with AIDS, etc., etc. So yeah, our main character went back home with a lot of problems, but he just really want to die in his mother's and father's and sister's arm, or in the arms of his family, and he just want to ask forgiveness of what he did. But the problem is his family is not 100% okay of him being gay and okay of him having that said disease, not because they don't love him, but because they were really afraid that the people in their society will discover who he really is, and will discover that he got that disease. His family is actually really afraid of being discriminated, or their reputation is going to be tarnished. They are a really religious family, so you just have to really imagine what the story is what the story is all about after that synopsis, and it's really heartbreaking. It's going to really make you cry because I did cry a lot in this book. And the writing style was simple but very effective. It was straight to the point, and yeah, it's one of the most memorable, one of the most very informative book that I've read, that will make readers empathize to the main character, or the people who also have HIV or AIDS, or people living with HIV or AIDS. And yeah, it's a must read. If you're considering to pick this one up, I highly recommend that you need to pick this as soon as possible. The next book I've read after The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickles is going to be Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I actually buddy read this one with Mikey, and the main reason why we picked this one because we thought that this is at least going to be nominated for this year's Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. Unfortunately, it did not win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. It was actually not even nominated as a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, which really made us sad. But anyway, we still read this before the announcement of the finalists and the winner, and I did really enjoy it. It's actually one of the best books I've read this year. I gave this one 5 stars. We're actually following our main character. He's a deacon and an old guy who is drowned by grief after losing his wife. He is just really lost, and he doesn't know how to spend the rest of his life in this world, and he is trying to look for a purpose. It's really sad, it's really informative. We're going to really empathize on the shoes of what it feels like to be a person living all by yourself at that age, and also a person at that age, at that stage of your life, also drowned by grief and having no purpose. It's really heartbreaking also, and a must read. So I was really sad that it wasn't able to get at least a nomination or as a finalist on the Pulitzer Prize. But anyway, it's going to be still one of the most memorable books I've read recently, and probably one of the best books I've read this year. So if you're considering this, if you want to check the reviews of other people who've read this book on the book community, you can check it online. Most of those reviews are going to be phenomenal, so pick this as soon as possible. The next book I've read after Deacon King Kong by James McBride is going to be another adult book under the fantasy genre. This is going to be The Shadow of Gods by John Green. This is the first book I read from him. I also purchased these books from Amazon US, but in this case I purchased this as a pre-order. So I placed the pre-order earlier around April or March, and then I got the book few days before my birthday. So this was released May 11, I think, and my birthday was May 17, so I got this May 16. I'm not really sure, I forgot. But yeah, I just consider this one as a gift for myself. This is my first book I read from him. The main reason why I picked this and pre-ordered this because of the cover. That's the first main reason. Especially if you're going to check the cover, it's really phenomenal. When I saw the cover and how epic it is with how small this person is and how big the dragon is, I told myself, yeah, I need to read this book because of the cover. And I just need an epic fantasy to read this year. And also, aside from the cover, the hype of the people who was a big fan of John Crane, who have read his previous works, also been hyping this to me, and I bought the hype. Unfortunately, that did me wrong because the hype made me not enjoy the book as much as I expected. I was just really expecting a lot from this book, and I was kind of disappointed because it wasn't able to meet my expectations. It's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong with the writing style, with the author, with the story. It was just me with a lot of expectations. So yeah, this is a high fantasy set influenced by Norse mythology. There will be dragons, there will be wars. We're going to follow three main different perspectives, which are going to be very disconnected at first, but eventually will really make sense towards the end. So I hope you're going to pick this one up if you want an epic fantasy with dragons and a lot of mythical creatures inspired by Norse, and also some political and revenge story. I highly suggest you need to pick this one up. The next book I've read after The Shadow of the Gods by John Green is going to be We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. I got this for free from Amazon US also because I have some gift cards that are about to expire, and I just really need to use them before they go to waste. So I don't know what book to pick, and then I saw this one. I actually haven't heard about this book nor the author at first, but when I tried to check the reviews online, on Goodreads and on Amazon also, this author has actually a good reputation on his previous works, and this one is actually really well reviewed. A lot of people said that this is going to be one of the best books they've read this year, so I bought those reviews. This is under adult category, under the genre of literary fiction slash mystery thriller. So and also after reading the synopsis, it just really reminded me, the atmosphere of the synopsis reminded me of The Dry by Jane Harper, which is one of my most favorite adult mystery thriller books I've read in my entire life. So yeah, I picked this one up for the sake that I'm going to use my gift card. So when it arrived, I read it, and sadly I was disappointed because I thought I'm going to cry based on the reviews. I thought I'm going to get emotional based on the reviews, but none of those happened. And the story was just really predictable. There's nothing special with the writing style. It was just direct to the point, but it lacks salt, it lacks flavor, it lacks butter. I don't know. It was just really bland, and the characters really stood out for me, but they were just really forgettable after a few weeks reading this. So nothing really stuck to me days after or weeks after reading this book. I actually just really forgot most of the things that happened in this one. So yeah, after the hype and after considering this, I was kind of disappointed. But maybe this book wasn't really for me. I can see why people love this, and I respect that. So yeah, if you're still going to give this one a try, this is all about an older sister and a younger brother who lost their mom from murder, and then they were fostered, they were put for an adoption because they were just too young to live all by themselves. So the sister at the really young age were really forced to be a grown up just to protect her younger brother. And yeah, they want revenge because they have this suspect who killed their mom. Just want to revenge the death of their mom, but eventually things get really messy towards as we story progress. So it's a story about our two main characters, which are 14 years old and 8 years old, and that's it. Just have to pick this one up if that. And it's set in a country-ish atmosphere in some part of, I'm not sure if it's US. I actually forgot, US or somewhere in UK. The next book I've read after We Begin at the End is a middle grade fantasy book. It's actually Exile by Shannon Messenger. It's the second book of the series. The main reason why I picked this one because I read the first book earlier this year, which I enjoyed, even though there were a lot of tropes that I'm not a big fan of. But I bought some of those tropes. It was manageable in the first book, so I gave the second book a try because I actually honestly enjoyed the first book. But what happened here in Exile is that it was just really a letdown. I thought that I'll be able to still manage the tropes, the cringiness of the tropes that happened in the first book. Unfortunately, it did not happen. I was just so full, or maybe the story or the writing style or the characters were not really for me. I did not really enjoy Exile. The character was still overpowered, and it kind of affected the plot and how the story progressed. So I was just not really buying most of the things that are happening in the book. So yeah, I just gave it probably around 3 stars, and I decided not to continue reading the rest of the books of the series anymore. And yeah, I picked Piranesi next. And this one, the main reason why I picked this, because Mikey recommended this to me since 2020, and this is actually one of the best books he read last year. And I just got tired hearing him recommending this book. Just kidding. Of course, I trust Mikey's recommendation because I believe Mikey and I has the same taste when it comes to books. And because of his recommendation, I picked this. And thank you so much, Mikey, because this is going to be a new all-time favorite of mine. Probably the best book I've read this year. It's really mind-blowing. I don't know if this is a sci-fi or fantasy, because at first this felt like a science fiction, and then as the story progressed and towards the end it felt more of like a fantasy. I was just really confused until now, but confused in a good way. A lot of things will not really make sense at first, but as the story progresses, everything will make sense and everything will just really blow your mind. I want to not give a lot of information what this book is all about. I always when you read this book, I recommend knowing less about what the story is, because the more you know less about this book, the less you know about this book, the more it will really blow your mind, and the better your experience reading this. It's just really short, and actually it's an absolute page turner. I've read this probably in just 2 or 3 days. And yeah, thank you so much, Mikey, for recommending this. I can't thank you enough. Absolutely 5-star. Now we're down to the last book I've read this year. I just really want to end with a positive note. This is probably one of the last books the last book I've read while making this video. I actually started reading this before Piranesi, but I finished Piranesi first. I almost considered not finishing this and making this as a DNF. This is the second book of the Crown of Feathers by Nike Preto. This is Heart of Flames. This is a young adult fantasy. I am a big fan of Crown of Feathers. If you're going to review some of my videos recently, I always recommend Crown of Feathers. I do believe Crown of Feathers is one of the most underrated young adult fantasy recently, and I wish a lot of people read it. This is one of my most anticipated read this year. I picked this once I got my hands on it. Unfortunately, it was so thick, but that's not my main issue. My main issue is it was so thick, but most of the chunk of this book went to the love story of our main character. Like, it was so dragging. The progression of the story was really minimal because most of the parts or most of the pages that's in this book focus more on the love story of our main characters, which I'm not a big fan. It was just really cringy, and I just get really tired. And yeah, again, I almost considered not finishing this one. If I'm not a big fan of Crown Feathers, I'll definitely rip this or sold this book. I don't know what I can do about, but with respect of how great the Crown of Feathers is and how epic the plots were on the first book, I just tried to push myself to finish this one, and yeah, it was a struggle. I was hoping towards the last few pages of this book that it's going to save. It tried, but it was not enough. There were some plots that I saw maybe the author wants to blow the same recipe or the same formula that she did on the first book, which was really mind blowing towards the end. But in this one, she tried to do it, but it did not really work. So if you're going to ask me if I'm still going to pick the third book, I'm still going to pick the third book because I saw the cover, it was epic, and I love the first book, so I just really want to see how the story or how the trilogy ends. And I do believe that this one needs a lot of editing. Just really have to dispose a lot of pages from this book and just really focus on the plot and the story, because there's really a lot of world building and a lot of character building that were necessary. And it just really suffered the middle book syndrome. And yeah, and I hope the series and the third book will just end with a bang. So please, Nikki Paupreto, I'm looking forward to read the third book, and I hope it will be better and even better than the first book. Okay, so yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for reaching this part of the video, for sticking with me, for listening how talkative I am. Thank you so much for watching, and my name again is Joel, your Bisaya reader. Please do like, subscribe, leave some comments below, share, and click the notification bell if you want to be notified if I'm going to upload new videos in the future. Take care and keep safe. See you again next time. Bye bye.